Barely 11 months after the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, another assassination is set to reverberate across West Asia. Iran's defense ministry has confirmed that the head of the country's nuclear program, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, has been assassinated near Tehran. The Iranian foreign minister, Javad Zarif, also condemned the assassination as an act of terror. Fakhrizadeh, known as the father of Iran's nuclear weapons program, was killed during a shootout near capital Tehran. Iranian state media reported that the scientist was targeted at Absard city. The assailants had detonated an explosion, forcing his car to stop before shooting at Fakhrizadeh's car. Iran's foreign minister, Javad Zarif, says that there is serious indication of Israel's role in the scientist's assassination. Zarif wrote on Twitter that the act shows desperate warmongering of the perpetrators. He also called on the international community to, and I'm quoting now, end their shameful double standards and condemn this act of state terror. Interestingly, in 2018, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had named Fakhrizadeh as the head of Iran's secret nuclear weapon program, Ahmad. He had announced that the Mossad had obtained over 100,000 files from Iran's secret nuclear archives. The files retrieved by Mossad focused on the secret Iranian nuclear program that was being developed from 1999 to 2003, called Project Ahmad, which was led by Fakhrizadeh. When Iran entered the 2015 nuclear deal, it denied that such a program even existed. However, work for the secret nuclear program continued under SPNB, an organization within Iran's defense ministry led by Fakhrizadeh. He is also the only Iranian scientist named in the International Atomic Energy Agency's 2015 final assessment of open questions about Iran's nuclear program and whether it was aimed at developing a nuclear bomb. The IAEA's report said that he oversaw activities in support of a possible military dimension to nuclear program within the so-called Ahmad plan. Iran's armed forces said in a statement carried by state media, "Unfortunately, the medical team did not succeed in reviving Fakhrizadeh, and a few minutes ago, this manager and scientists achieved the high status of martyrdom after years of effort and struggle." The assassination comes days after the public confirmation of US-Israeli Joint Operations Senior Al-Qaeda commander Mohammad al-Masri in Tehran in August. Al-Masri was gunned down in a Tehran alley on the 7th of August, the anniversary of the 1998 bombings of the US embassies in Nairobi, Kenya and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Reports had indicated that the US provided intelligence to the Israelis on where they could find al-Masri and the alias he was using at the time, while Israeli agents carried out the killing. And joining us live on the broadcast is Meir Javedanfar, an author and a West Asia analyst from Tel Aviv. Thanks very much, Meir, for speaking with us. Your initial assessment of what we are seeing playing out here, and according to you, the implications of this for the West Asian region and beyond?
In terms of the implications, look, Mr. Fakhrizadeh was pointed out by Israel as the person behind the military program of Iran's nuclear, the military part of Iran's nuclear program, as your report quite rightly said. So there's always this concern in Israel that, the Islamic Republic of Iran has said that Israel should be wiped off the face of the earth. And then 2 years ago, they tested a ballistic missile that can reach Israel, and they wrote on it in Hebrew that Israel must be wiped off the face of the earth. So there's always been this concern that, if Iran develops a bomb, then it could be very dangerous for Israel. So this is why Israel and also is being blamed, and also other because of other attempts that have been attributed to Israel. In terms of the impact that it will have, I don't think the Iranians are going to avenge the killing just yet. They will probably wait until Mr. Trump is out of the office. They see Mr. Trump as a very close ally of the state of Israel. And then once Mr. Biden comes into office, I think we are likely to see an Iranian reaction How hard it will be and where it will take place is difficult to know. But if I were a betting man, I would say it will most probably be something on the border between Israel and Syria.
All right, so will not avenge the killing just yet, is what you're saying. Elaborate on that, if you can, Meir, and also, would we see a reaction quite similar to what we saw after the Qasem Soleimani killing?
That's an excellent question. In terms of, look, the Iranians fired missiles at an American military base in Iraq. Will they fire missiles at Israel? It is possible, as I said, because, see, Iran has forces in Syria, which is to our northern border with the state of Israel. So, yes, it is possible that there could be a missile strike, or it could be that they will also, that the Iranians will take part in assassinations against Israeli officials. But what I have to say is that if and when that happens, we're likely to see this to escalate, because no Israeli leader is going to allow that to go unanswered. And so, and also we have to also take into consideration that in terms of missile capability and missile defense, Israel has a superior hand in this, and also in the field of intelligence. So yes, we are likely to see an Iranian strike. It could be a missile strike, but Iran will have to take into consideration an Israeli counter-strike, and also the fact that, as I mentioned, Israel has superiority in a number of key military and intelligence areas.
Fakhrizadeh was known as the father of Iran's nuclear weapons program. If you can elaborate for the benefit of our viewers what this assassination means for Iran, the loss for the country.
Look, the hardliners will say in Iran that somebody very important in our country has been assassinated. Therefore, it is very important that we settle scores. It could push, on the one hand, it could push Iran and motivate Iran even more to pursue a nuclear weapon, because they could say, look, we're confronting somebody who is assassinating the head of our program, and the best revenge is to go down the path that he wanted, which presumably was to make a nuclear weapon. I think that is going to be one of the scenarios. The other scenario which we could see from Iran is that they would go back to the negotiations with Biden and try to reach a good deal with Biden, and they will try to reach a deal that is against the interest of the state of Israel. That could also happen. We have to remember that Israel wasn't very happy with the Obama-Iran deal. So we could also see something along those lines, that the Iranians might decide that the best way would be to create a wedge between Israel and United States by reaching a diplomatic solution, that the diplomatic solution would be the best way to go. But, it really depends what happens. It really depends on Biden. And it also depends on whether Mr. Fakhrizadeh passed on his knowledge to his disciples. He probably did. I don't think he was the only man. But in Iran, who knows how to make a nuclear weapon. But, his assassination does deal at least a psychological blow that somebody of that stature has now been killed, presumably by Israel.
Right. Meir, thanks very much for sharing those perspectives. We'll, of course, keep a close eye on those developments.